The most successful organizations, I believe, are based on mutual trust and respect. And I tell people this all the time. You don't get results from people because you scare them or berate them, or you get results from people because they don't want to disappoint you, because they respect and trust you. And because you respect and trust them, they're going to go do their best work. And I think that is just so huge. You're right. It's every single interaction you have. It isn't the one, what you are in a certain meeting. It's what you are in every meeting. It's what you are in that interaction in the hallway. It's what you are when you happen to run into somebody at Safeway, right? Like, it's all of those things that make a difference. And it's just obviously foundationally, are you a good human being?
It's interesting when people move into a leadership position. I know at least this was true on my end. I was an account executive for a year at Outreach, and then I moved in to help to build out our SMB team. And I thought, okay, now that I'm in this sales manager role, I need to just tell everybody everything that I know. And I remember, it was my first time leading team meetings, and I think I had 3, maybe 4 team meetings. And a majority of it, probably like if there was a Gong recorder or a Kaya recorder on it, it would say like 80% talk time is Alex. And I would get out of these meetings, I'm like, I feel like I talked about some really good stuff, but like it feels a little stale. And I still remember a guy named Vernie on our team came up to me after the 4th meeting. He's like, Alex, you open to some feedback? He's like, I think you can maybe like get other people talking in this, because we understand you know it, but like we want to show that we know it too. And it was such a really, like, I was so grateful for the feedback, because I was still very much a deer caught in the headlights of, okay, I'm apparently a manager now and everybody has to know everything I know. But the most important part is, like, it's not my job to know everything. It's my job to create a space and environment that allows for collaboration for everybody to get to know and to conversate about it together.
That's so huge, because I think people think they listen because they're quiet, and then the way they ask questions shuts down the conversation too, right? So there are meetings where I think, and we have a lot of this super aggressive culture in sales, right? It's like, why did you do this? And when did you do that? And then they're like, you just tell me, right? And that doesn't open up that environment that you just hit. So it is not just about listening. It is how you ask questions and how you engage that also gives that permission and the space to, be vulnerable, to, talk about things you don't quite understand or where you need help, and to bring ideas that you're not sure whether they're great or not, but you want to, put them on the table. You've got to make that space, and also a healthy way. And I think that's also huge. I mean, there's a lot of coaching I've done for very senior leaders where I see them getting upset or aggressive in a discussion. And I'm like, you are shutting down any kind of feedback you were going to get. And they're going to go do this. It's not the right thing because they're afraid to say anything. And so it is also, how do you create that culture of, it's okay to be you and authentic in this conversation. I expect you to be prepared. I expect you to have accountability, but I also expect you to push some limits and it's okay to be vulnerable and fail a little bit, because we're going to work through that together. Coming unprepared is not acceptable. Coming and saying inappropriate things obviously is not acceptable, but coming and saying, okay, I don't know all the answers, but here's some things I'm thinking, that is great. And so how do you create that environment where that's okay? And that is something that people learn about you as a leader. And the more people hear it, the more authentic they become, the more vulnerable they become, because they hear, oh yeah, they're that way in all these meetings. People like to meet with them because they have this opportunity. So doing that is just foundational. I mean, I think it's part of what you're asking is like, how do you stop if a meeting's getting too aggressive? How do you pull it back as a leader? How do you take somebody aside who's creating also that environment in a meeting and say, you want to do a one-on-one to have a more intense conversation, we can do that, but you don't do it in front of 10 people, 5 people, whatever. And what outcome do you really want here? Because you're not going to get it with the way you're asking this question, right? So you as a leader also have to watch other leadership styles that are in the room to make sure you're helping create that consistency of dialogue too. And it's a balance.
That's so good. It's, as you're sharing that, my thought process was going to ask the same question you did, is like, well, then how do you create the environment that people feel safe to share stuff that might be edgy, that might be wrong, but it's a collaborative environment. And my first thought goes to, it's actually not how you're showing up in the meeting that creates that environment. It's how you show up in every other area that creates that environment. It's how are you showing up if you go into an office, how you give someone a fist bump, or do you just cold shoulder them as you walk by? Is the Slack chatter going on quite a bit? It's even going so far as to say, are you using emojis? That just like express just like, I'm just normal. I'm a human being here. And if you're showing up that way outside of that 60-minute intense meeting, people will show up and trust you more as a leader. And obviously you need to create a strong environment and space within the actual meeting itself, but it's outside of the meeting that determines how that actual meeting goes.
The most successful organizations, I believe, are based on mutual trust and respect. And I tell people this all the time. You don't get results from people because you scare them or berate them, or you get results from people because they don't want to disappoint you, because they respect and trust you. And because you respect and trust them, they're going to go do their best work. And I think that is just so huge. You're right. It's every single interaction you have. It isn't the one, what you are in a certain meeting. It's what you are in every meeting. It's what you are in that interaction in the hallway. It's what you are when you happen to run into somebody at Safeway, right? Like, it's all of those things that make a difference. And it's just obviously foundationally, are you a good human being? Good human beings also can make great leaders. Got to bring all that to the table, though. Some people are afraid to. They're afraid, oh, I can't be vulnerable. Yes, you can. People will trust you more because you were.